I don't know what it is. That's all. We're just ready to try to
Freshman 15 instead of 19.
Sometimes you just get started. I'm like leaving Sunday back Saturday. You work not to say about kids. Not my previous state, that's crazier. He was out there trying to seriously, not trying to.
The official title is
She can go about 2 weeks ago.
Exists. You gonna let do that? Oh, yeah. Yes. Oh, great.
Right, go at it. Okay.
Are we ready to start?
Did you get me one else? You get me one?
Cowboys?
Oh, man.
All right, we'll get started here. Good to see you this evening. I've got just one announcement to add. I guess I don't have any announcements done here or not, but Vivian Frang is not feeling well. She stayed home tonight. I think Todd and Sarah's with her, and they're watching online. So let's remember Vivian in our prayers. Hopefully, Paul said it might be the inner ear. That's what you said, maybe inner ear, don't know for sure. So we hope that they're doing well right there. Announcements. Anything else? We have a guest speaker. No, we don't. We have a good speaker tonight. Our brother Cliff's going to be speaking. He'll be talking about a subject called Proving God Exists. And he'll be speaking to Seaman and next week, and then maybe that's it. But we're looking forward to him speaking tonight. I'll lead prayer in just a moment. Then Doug's going to lead two songs. Then it's Cliff's. He'll offer invitation. Then we'll have an invitation song. And then Brian's going to lead us in closing prayer. All right, let's bow our heads and make this prayer. God, Father, we're so thankful for the evening. We're thankful, Father, that we can come and worship you. And we pray that blessings go on each and every one here. We pray that you'll bless us in our study. We pray you'll be with our brother Cliff as he presents things to us, things that he has presented all over the world, actually. and it's convinced people that you really exist. And by these lessons, people have come to you. We're so thankful for him sharing, and we pray your blessings upon them both. Pray, Father, be with those that are sick. We're mindful of our sister Vivian this evening. We hope all things are well with her and that she'll be back with us very shortly. We pray for those who are caring for others that may be sick at this time, and we pray that blessings be upon them. Pray, Father, that you'll watch over us as thy people. May we always be a place that the truth is presented and that we are willing to stand for that truth. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
If you're looking in the books, number 360. 360. Standing on the promises. Let's stand as we sing this song if you're able to. It's hard to sing this without standing up. Standing on the promises of Christ my King, through eternal ages let his praises ring. Glory in the highest I will shout and sing, standing on the promises of God. Standing on the promises of God, my Savior, standing. I'm standing on the promises of God, standing on the promises that cannot fail. When the howling storms of doubt and fear assail, by the living word of God I shall prevail. Standing on the promises of God, standing on the promises of God, my Savior, standing. I'm standing on the promises of God, standing on the promises of Christ my Lord, bound to him eternally by love's strong cord, overcoming daily with the Spirit's sword, standing on the promises of God, standing on the promises of God, my Savior, standing. I'm standing on the promises of God. Let's be seated, please. Number 360, very next page, if you're looking in the songbooks, 360, in his time. And then Brother Cliff will bring the lesson to us this evening. In his time, he makes all things beautiful. In his time, Lord, please show me every day as you're teaching me your way, that you do just what you say in your time. In your time. In your time. You make all things beautiful in your time. Lord, my life to you I bring. May each song I have to sing be to you a lovely thing in your time. After Brother Cliff's lesson this evening, we're going to sing. I didn't have it written down, but I got it marked. I apologize. If you're in the songbooks, number 589 as a deer.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
We're going to do something a little different tonight. I've been a Christian for 73 years and I can't remember. All right. I can't remember one time when there was a lesson on proving God exists. And of course, we don't need that lesson. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, how are you going to reach the outside atheist? How many here know an atheist? How many? Good. How many of you have ever talked to an atheist about God? How did that work out?
Sometimes good, and sometimes they refuse to even listen.
Who's had a different experience talking to an atheist about God? Have you converted an atheist yet? You know, it's hard because we are trained to love each other, to love the atheist, to love God, to love His Word, study His Word. We do three things: study His Word, study His Word, and study His Word, and then follow it, of course. But when you're talking to an atheist, quoting the Bible to him doesn't make sense. It doesn't ring a bell. It doesn't satisfy. It doesn't meet his needs. What we're going to go over tonight is, it's really, really, really great because it's logically and scientifically correct. It's short and it's easy to understand. And that's why we're so successful when we used it in China. I've shown us to hundreds of atheists. And not one time did they say, oh, that point is wrong. It should say this. Or did you know that in this case, that's not true? Now, we didn't convert everybody, of course, we showed this too. But the point is, none of them pointed out any discrepancy in the procedure. And the ones that hung in there till the end were converted. Now, atheists are like everybody else. You know, when you're talking to a religious person, anybody, about changing your life, you want to change your life to become a Christian or leave a denomination and come to a church. When you're talking to anybody like that, there's a certain point where they will listen or they will not listen. And atheists are the same way. Now, many times in China, after they heard this the first time, they would say, well, I'll call you. And I'd never see them again. But the important thing is, the thing I want you to remember during this whole thing is how simple it is. You're going to think, probably, you're going to think, how can that work with educated atheists when it's so simple? Try it. Try it. Because it's true. The facts are there. And you'll be able to see that. And I hope that you'll take this and study it, think about it, even memorize it. And then look for an atheist to try it out on. One thing that really, really is important is that young people who are going to college, if they're planning to go to a non-Christian college, oh dear me, they have to have this. They have to have this or something just as good. I mean, you may have heard 10 or 12 years ago, a member of the church did some research, talked to I don't know how many different congregations about young people in their church who went to a non-Christian college. And his research found that 70% of Christian young people who went to a non-Christian college lost their faith. 70%. And I'm sure it's because they had this kind of information. Now, naturally, I'm fond of this because you do so much, but I'm not saying this is the only way. to convert an atheist. Find something that suits your background and your interests. If this is not it. I just want you to know that this is really important tonight. And it's going to be so simple, you're going to wonder why it's so important. To start with, it's a very simple thing. Usually what I say, you can answer 3 questions and convert any atheist. 3 simple questions. If you'll notice there in the first one, right at the first, let's see if I can get this thing. Right here. Start off with the universe. The universe is here. Now, we all have heard of people who deny that the universe is there, but I've never met anybody, so we're just going to assume that everyone that we will ever see and talk to seriously believes the universe is here. So my first question is, did the universe have a beginning or no beginning? Now, please notice that each one of these questions, they only have two options. They had a beginning or had no beginning. One of those has to be true. The universe is here. It's here. It had to have a beginning or it's been here forever. And that's true of all 3 questions. All 3 questions only have 2 possible answers. One of the answers must be true, and only one can be true. That's again what we're supporting this project. Now I want you to think about how an atheist might respond to this. And it's okay with me if you want to play devil's advocate. In other words, if you think, well, what if an atheist said, it's okay to just raise your hand and ask. Because you might meet an atheist who says that, and you might need to know what to say. And if I can answer somebody like that. So I don't mind you participating. As a matter of fact, I will ask a question occasionally, and I really want you to participate. Or else it's going to take 5 minutes and we're going to go out early. And if that's what you had in mind, forget it. Okay, so the universe had a beginning or no beginning. So what do you think?
Atheists might say it's always been here.
Who said that?
An atheist might say it's always been here, no beginning.
Now, atheists might say that. And that's kind of what I always thought. But I've been doing this for 30 years. And I've talked to, well, I don't know how many. Sometimes in groups as large as this, and sometimes one-on-one. And I have never had one atheist say it's been here forever. Now, I'm ready for that if he did. If he said that. But no one ever said that. And I think it's because, remember the Big Bang Theory? Well, the Big Bang Theory said beginning. And so most atheists, most non-Christian people, most non-religious people have accepted the Big Bang Theory, which means a beginning. But if you happen to meet someone who says, no, it's been here forever, there's a couple of things on your handout. I'm just going to read one of them. The law of heat transfer is the first comment after that. The law of heat transfer says that given enough time, everything will be the same temperature. That means, well, the law of temperature transference really says temperature goes from heat goes from the hot to the cold. Now, we all know that, of course. You build a fire, you go in the house, and the house is cold, you go put in something in the fireplace. The heat goes into, and that doesn't mean there's no heat in a cold room. Regardless of how cold the room is, there's some heat in it. But it goes from the hottest to the coldest. Now just think about that. Regardless of all the stars in the universe and how hot they are, the law of heat transfer says heat transfers from the hotter to the cooler forever. If there was no beginning, how long has that been happening? If there was no beginning, how long has that been happening? Forever. Therefore, everything would be the same temperature. Since everything is not the same temperature, it has not been happening forever, which means there was a beginning. Now, what can you think of that an atheist might say? Or what question do you have about this verse? Now, once again, I know it's pretty straightforward, but please don't shed the concept because it's so easy, because it works. It works. Regardless of how much education they have, all they have to be is they only have to care about the truth. And you can convert regardless of how smart they are, how many degrees they have, if you just follow the line. So, therefore, we conclude we had a beginning. Anybody want to question that or add a comment? Or you guys are not going to sleep, right? Okay. Because I don't want you to go to sleep. Because this is going to make a change in your life. Okay, so there was a beginning. Now, the second question is, was the beginning caused or not caused? Was it caused or not caused? Now, this is the beginning of the universe. Was it caused or not caused? I remember one time in Michigan, my wife and I were going to a department store and we had to go to the service department for something. We went and there was a line. In front of us, line was a Chinese couple. And they were just real nice, talking to each other, and we were behind them, so we started a conversation, because at that time, I was still going to China. And so we got to talking, and they were real friendly, like 99% of Chinese people are. And so during the course of the conversation, I said, do you believe in God? Now, that's not offensive to them. They're not offended by that. They don't feel threatened by that. And they just said, oh, no, we don't believe in God. There is no God. And they said it just casually, not threatened. I said, well, could I tell you why I believe in God? That might be something we could all take to use sometimes. Rather than say, can I prove to you that God exists? You say, can I tell you why I believe in God? And they said, oh, sure. Yeah, that'd be fine. Just friendly, want to talk. I said, well, can we come over to your house? He said, oh, no, we'll come over to your house. It surprised me, because it was about 20 miles. And so they're going to spend all that time coming to my house to learn hear me talk about God? It really surprised me, because they were real nice about it. Both of them had their doctor's degree in different parts of science, different scientific degrees. So they were over to the house. After we talked for a while, we started through this. I got to the point of, was the beginning caused or not caused? And I started to say, for every effect, and she interrupted me. He said, there is a cause. Now, I learned that in high school physics. It's the basis of all scientific investigation. Every effect, there is a cause. So that answers the question. Who was caused? And when she interrupted me and she said it, we did a discussion on it, and my question. Now, I didn't count, I haven't counted, I don't know how many times I've gone through this, but I have never met, in my experience with hundreds of atheists, no one has ever said there was no beginning, and no one has ever said there's no cause. But now, see, that gets to a real important point. The universe had a beginning, and that beginning was caused. Now, the next question. Since only a force can cause, what kind of force caused the beginning of the universe? Well, I chose to divide it into two parts. There are things that do not cause and things that do cause, and only a force, some kind of force, is required to cause some kind of action. And that's very common for every day. You go to the doctor's office, what's the first thing he says to you? He says, why are you here? And this is where we're saying, what is the effect that you're here for? And he knows that whatever the effect is that you want to talk about, there was a cause, and that's what his job is, to find a cause. It's the same thing with everything we do when we have to ask for help. We take our car to be repaired. First thing you drive in, you say, well, what's it doing? What's the effect? And then chase for the cause. So only a force can cause. Well, divide the force into thinking forces and non-thinking forces. I remember once when we got to this point, and I said that. First of all, why divide it into thinking and non-thinking forces? Because I wanted to divide it some other way. I said, because that's what I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about the thinking forces. He said, oh, okay. So this is an important point. Was it a thinking force or a non-thinking force? Well, for the sake of ease of discussion, I listed some non-thinking forces over here. And of course, I just listed 9 of them and I said, et cetera, et cetera. Because there's all kinds of non-thinking forces. But the point is, my question was, which one of these or which combination of these forces caused the beginning of the universe? And every time I've asked on that, they deduce what you're doing. You know what to say. They don't want to say the obvious. The non-thinking forces require the universe to exist. These non-thinking forces do not exist outside the universe. So they could not have created the universe. They could not have been the force that created the universe. Now, so far, this has been real simple, isn't it? Had a beginning, no beginning. The beginning was caused. Was it caused by thinking force or non-thinking force? 3 questions. And if you go through it slow enough, because the first time, although it's simple the first time, you're going to kind of, the facts I'm stating and the implications take a little time sometimes. But now, if we say these non-thinking forces cannot have caused the beginning of the universe, what are we left with? The thinking force. Now, what do I say? I have a name for this thinking force. God. One time I said that, he said, first time I saw him, he said, well, why did you call him God? The thinking force. And I said, well, what do you want to call it? He didn't have a suggestion, so I said, okay, well, let's call it XYZ. The thinking force was XYZ. Come back next week and I'm going to prove to you that Jesus was the son of XYZ and he called him God. So we should. There's nothing you can say. And when we get here, one time I was talking to a physics professor in Guangzhou University. And I'd gone through this. We were in his classroom. He was sitting in the seat of a student, and I was up, pretending to be a teacher. I was writing all this on the chalkboard. When I got to this point, I said, and besides, if a person chooses to believe these things created the universe, or didn't, then you have to believe that life came from non-life. Now just think about that. Think what life means. Think how complex it is. Think how varied it is. It grows, it changes. Just think about the concept of life. You're going to believe, you're going to say, life, the complex thing that is able to reproduce and have all these things. We're still, at this time, still discovering things about the chemistry of our body. They're so complex. And this life came from non-life. And the physics professor said, yes, I believe that. Life came from non-life. Well, I was, like I said, in his classroom with his chalk, right, chalkboard. And when he said that, you've seen in the movies, Yeah, if you know any Chinese people, you may know it's true. But the older Chinese people, when they ask you something, they usually put your hands together and just a slightly kind of bow and ask you for something. It's just their way of being polite. And so in order to be polite, I took his chalk and I bowed slightly and I walked over to him. I handed him the chalk and went like this, my head down. He said, "Give me your evidence." And I just stood there, dead silence, no comment, no remark. I thought it was 3 to 5 minutes. I'm sure it was only 10 seconds. But I was just standing there. I said, "Give me your evidence." I wanted him to take his chalk, give me his evidence. Finally, he looked on the floor and said, "No evidence." With which I agreed. And then we went on. This process is so simple. And it's so powerful. Let me make sure I got everything down.
Hey, Cliff,
Yes,
has anybody taken you up on that challenge to try to give you evidence?
try to do what?
Try to argue that they have evidence that it came from a non-living?
No,
one's
not
ever-
one, not
ever
one.
Try to argue.
No. Now you'd think, I mean, I've done this, I do this so much, you'd think I'd have one case for
Yeah,
that too, but not one.
No.
I think because most of the people I know, the people I talk to were honest, they could say. Sure.
When in the class, I don't know if it was in that particular classroom, but somebody did say, well, you know, that's when sometime before this, life had been, there was life in a test tube. And a baby would.
I don't remember that one.
Huh?
I don't remember that one.
Yes, and you had a newspaper article that said, do you remember?
I remember the newspaper article. I remember I cut it out of the newspaper in 1958, and I saved it all that time.
Yes.
And that article said, "We're close to discovering life." And I said, well,
He
no.
said, I have that article.
Yeah, we still have it, that's right.
See,
I remember now using it. Yeah. Now, what questions do some of you have? Now, I know this is so simple, you probably all understand it, but please try it. Try it with some of your children or grandchildren or nephews or nieces or next door neighbors.
Well, how many throw up to you the idea that, the enough time passes by, anything's possible type of argument, that's always a big thing. Well, you gotta have more time. Eventually these things will take place. Is that ever thrown up to you too?
Not really, I think I would just say, we have to make our decisions based on evidence. You can theorize that something might happen because there's enough time. And if you want to believe that, I would tell them, not you. I would tell them if that's where you want to live your life based on a proposition for which there's no evidence. It's up to you.
I remember when Don Patton was in Indiana, doing his PhD at Ball State. They kept testing, there's a lot of peat moss in Indiana, and they kept testing them and everything, saying they had to be millions and millions of years. Every test they did was 6,000 to 10,000 years, which would correlate with the flood. But they kept testing, and after hundreds of tests, they came up with one that said it was older. So that's the one they accepted because that's what they wanted to believe. That happens here sometimes too. I want to believe it, so I'm not going to accept what's very evident.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. And I think in my case, it just happened to be my case. When people came to that conclusion, they just didn't come back.
Yeah.
Didn't come back. Because obviously we didn't convert everyone we talked to. But if they kept coming back and kept talking, I remember there were 2 or 3 boys from college, and I had met them out on the street or something. Anyway, they come and went through this. And one of the guys, the third guy that started leaving, the third one out, stopped his door and turned around and said, all my life, they've told me there is no God, and now you tell me this? I said, come back next week, I'll tell you more. But so many of them are open to the idea. There are many Christians in China today because of this. Now, the thing that I was so eager to get to this point, to share with you, situation in this country today. Oh, we need this. We need all of us to be eager to share this with our neighbors, even if they're not an atheist, even if they believe in God. Share this with them anyway, because maybe they will share it with an atheist. Because it's so simple. And it harmonizes with science and harmonizes with logic. And I've been doing it for 30 years. Not one time has anybody said, well, this particular point is a little bit off. Or there's an exception to this based on. I've just never had that. So I encourage you to try to do this with some friends, some neighbors, especially the high school kids. It's easy enough for them to understand, and boy, they need it when they go to college. They go to a non-Christian college. They really need it. Okay, what other questions or comments?
Brother Cliff,
Yes.
so if you think about more modern day evolutionary theories and more modern day origin theories like the Big Bang, at its core, at its root, all those theories were basically an attempt to try to explain how we got here because other than something than God. In other words, those things were rooted in one assumption that there was no God. And if you can, what you're doing here, if you can basically destroy that false foundation, then all those theories fall apart. And I think I read here recently, last year and a half or so, there's been a growing I guess, group of scientists who aren't necessarily believers. They're not, Christians. They're not necessarily people who are trying to evangelize, but they're coming to the realization that modern day evolutionary theory, modern day origin theories are not sustainable. They just don't make sense. Basically, for the very thing that you're talking about here.
Yeah, that's right. And one thing about this very simple procedure is harmonizes with logic and science. Tonight, if there's anyone here who needs the prayers of the congregation, if there's anyone here who wants to come forward, now will be the time when in just a minute, when we stand and sing. I've been a member for a long time, and I've seen people, come forward for different reasons. And there's not a scriptural argument that says you can only come forward and have them pray for you if you've done this or this or this, and there's only been this and this many people involved, and there's no qualifications. If you feel you want the congregation to pray for you, if you've got something you want to confess, please come forward and let us do that right now as we stand and sing.
As a deer pants for the water, so my soul longs after you. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. I want you more than gold or silver, only you can satisfy. You alone are the real joy giver and the apple of my eye. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone are my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. I'd like to thank Brother Cliff for his comment. We lived over around the University of Georgia for 30 years, and we had a student body class part of the time there at UGA, and I met one of the professors through that who was the head of the quantum physics department at UGA. Now, he had been an atheist and had studied himself out of it, and there was a pretty good group that he had kind of taught. They were denominational, but yet they had come out of that. He had a study, I forget the fellow's name, who wrote Darwin's Black Box. They had a public assembly there at UGA that everybody on UGA tried to ban. And they tried to fire this professor several times because he's very outspoken. So Brother Cliff's comments about state universities and stuff is very true. They're very anti all of this. So keep those in your prayers. And this is powerful. And we need to thank Brother Cliff for presenting that tonight. Look forward to next week. Brother Brian's going to lead us in a dismissal prayer. Thanks for being here tonight.
Bow with me. Our God, our Father in heaven, we come before you at the close of this day. So thankful for the many countless blessings that you blessed us with this day. We're so thankful for our brothers and sisters in Christ that we are able to come together this evening to be able to open up your word, to be able to study about you and your existence and how to defend the word and to be able to teach others. We ask that you be with us as we separate from this place and help us to continue to be saved until we can return together again. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If anybody knows anybody that's shut in and has had trouble logging in or anything, or needs something to do that, let some of us know. There's some of us that are trying to work on getting those things taken care of. Get that? Look at this website, and they do 3 consultations and kind of assess the running. It is good. I